Hey guys, Joshua Peterson, Peterson Electric here. Wanted to show you the second part to this video in Fort Collins. That little panel we cut out was about this high, that FPE. So we lowered everything, knocked it out through the back. The code states that if you don't use an eccentric or concentric knockout, you knock it out yourself and you put a binding lock washer that has teeth to grind it in the metal, you do not have to put a bond bushing. I went ahead and did it on this side, but I'm not going to do it on the other side because it's the meter can. It's still a good practice I like to have. Only need an 1¼ inch nipple on there. Code states you can be 100% fill on anything that's less than 2 feet. That nipple's about 8 inches. And then beyond that, we still have about 60% fill left over. Article 200 talks about identification of your neutral, 3 stripes. Right here's a retainer clip. If any of you guys watch my video, if you don't mind sending me that code, I've had a hard time finding that. I know that that has to be there to retain it because we don't have it as a main breaker here, but we have it on the bus bar. I think that might be in 404 under switches or 230 for services. But anyways, so that's our main disconnect, 125 amps. That's the max that they would allow us to have. This is a 1/0 copper. He preferred a THWN-2 copper. Our ground rods look a little bit ugly. I agree with you guys on the video if you see that, but we had to come over to here to get in through the crawl space, and that's where the cold water is, just 5 foot on the other side of that. So he would prefer us to do that rather than cut drywall, and we had no attic accessibility in this house. So that was the cold water. As far as the grounding out here, we've got our 2 ground rods. Article 250.52 states you have to have a 2 grounding systems, which is going to be your cold water on a house, for example. There is no UFR on an older home, and then you're going to use a rod. Some inspectors interpret 250.53 as supplementary ground rod as either 1 or 2 rods. You know, I personally think that a water bond and an 8-foot ground rod driven 8 foot is good enough, but this city required 2 ground rods. So we had to put one right here and then no closer than 8 foot or 6 foot over to here. I typically just lay my rod, go 8 feet to be safe. Unless you can prove less than 25 ohms of resistance, and I don't know if they mean that supplementary or the primary ground, or between the both. But if you had a ground rod that close to water, you still can't be closer than 6 foot. If you had a UFR near your ground rod, you still can't be closer than 6 foot. But in this city, again, 2 ground rods is expected. Then we put on our inter-system bonding bridge bar. We had our low voltage Comcast guy who already bonded to the side of that old meter, took that off, cut it out, put it down here. That number 6 ran through. Went ahead and stationary this off right here with a mini to hold this. This is the dumbest part of the code, I think, because this is supposed to slip and sleeve from this unit here, but the code states that I actually have to support the conduit within 3 foot as it enters a cabinet. This is the utility side of the service, so it has nothing to do with the NEC-70 code book that we study. I don't know why they make me, but they make me put on a 2-inch mini. You could, after the inspector leaves, no offense inspectors, but you could just back that off just a little bit to leave that as a little bit of looseness that you could fit a quarter or a penny through there, and that way you leave some looseness so it doesn't rip the mini off the wall. Anyway, so this opens up. This is our bypass meter here. As you can see, we lowered this. This cabinet was only this big for the meter, way high. I was right at almost 6 foot, 5'11". They asked that we could be somewhere centered, which for me is going to be centered to my face, is going to be about 5'5", but they don't want it higher than 6 foot. But that's just kind of a common sense here to install that. They are requesting the bypass meter. We did get our slip sleeve. We did have to undo all that, but as you can see, I had to dig down about 2.5 feet, and I do have my my MA male fitting adapter right there. Green stripe for your conduit right here for schedule 80. And I think, personally, that's a little extreme too, because it's not like a tractor or car can drive by this. And you could put a schedule 40 and it's going to be strong enough, but the code states a schedule 80 on that, especially with the utility side as well. Other than that, guys, I'm going to get in here and get all my branch circuits landed. The cover should cover most of this edging. I had to cut out the wall and the stud here that had a scab stud and pull that off so I could get this to fit, because this is a 14.5 inch panel. The other one was 12 inches, 12.5. And then right up here is a little bit of gap, but that panel cover should cover most of that. Don't forget though, guys, one other thing. Because of Article 300, probably, I think it's towards the front of it, where it talks about transferring of different atmospheres. You want to just get some rubber tape. It doesn't have to be fire retardant, but this stuff, probably should use a knife. Don't forget to take and use this, which this one we don't need a lot. And you need to stuff that inside of that hole the best that you can, because our inspectors actually look for that to keep, it's basically condensation is what they told me. Beyond the fact that if there was a fire, fire loves to seek out oxygen. So anyways, guys, thanks for joining us. Hopefully the video helped you out. I'll show you the third final video when we're done.